Good morning. The forward slash can be used in many ways. For instance, it can be used in abbreviations such as care of or not applicable. It is applicable, by the way, in this case. It could be used as the word per, like as in kilometers per hour. Okay? But I think the forward slash really came into its own with the advent of the internet. I'm sure you may do this every day in the use of web addresses, website addresses such as Our Lady of Guadalupe.ca /alpha. But there's one other example that I'll use in the context of this message this morning, and it deals more with before and after. Before you were a certain way, and then after things had changed, things were different. The forward slash is there in the middle, before and after, such as marriage. If you are married, you lived a certain way, you lived a certain life. The forward slash, after, you lived probably, I hope, a different way. Or perhaps in retirement when you were working. Life existed and went on in a certain way, and as you worked, and then once you retired, life became something a little different. The forward slash in life can describe events or milestones such as marriage, children, retirement. As you transition from your teens to your 20s to your 30s and so on, before, after. Have you ever thought about life in this context of before and after? I have. Is that weird? Don't answer that. Before and after. We see this as Jesus calls the 4 disciples, and he says, "Come follow me, and I will make you fishers of people." This before and after, before they met Jesus, the apostles were simple fishermen. They caught fish. They sold their catch. They mended their nets. They repaired their boats. They were fishermen. But after they met Jesus, they were something totally different. They no longer did the many things that they would consider themselves as fishermen to do. Change comes with before and after. If you are married, what was life like before you were married? And what was it like after you were married? Or how about having children? Having children change anything? Before, after. This experience of children, I know it as something a little different. How I do it is before when I had hair, and then after when I didn't. Change comes with before and after. And it can be transformative change. Because the gospel says that immediately they left their nets and they followed him. This encounter with Jesus was so powerful, so moving, so transformative, that the apostles dropped everything. Immediately, they started following him. The apostles learned from Jesus. He began to teach, and he went about proclaiming the good news, healing the sick, curing disease. Great crowds followed them. That sounds a far cry from being simple fishermen. And when we look at before and after, we all share something in common, each and every one of us. Because like the apostles, we all have a before we encountered Jesus. We may have been unaware of our need for Jesus. The apostles were certainly unaware of their need for Jesus. We might have been unaware of our need for Jesus before. We all share that in common, each and every one of us. In fact, you might be there right now. You're before. And some of you have an after with Jesus. Now, I want to make a small distinction because there is a difference knowing about Jesus and knowing Jesus. If you know Jesus, you live your faith. If you know Jesus, you are a Christian and you follow him, much like the apostles. And I know some of you, because I've spoken to many of you, know exactly the date in which you encountered Jesus. The specific time. It could have been at a retreat. It could have been at Mass. It could have been time as you spent in front of the Blessed Sacrament in Eucharistic adoration. Or if you're like me, it could be something rather unexpected and completely out of the blue. Now, I don't know the exact date, but I can tell you that it was October of 1983 in Thunder Bay, Ontario. I was going to school, and I was studying for an upcoming test. I was just in my room. And this sense of God's love, the Holy Spirit, absolutely overwhelmed me. I was not praying. I was not doing anything in particular. I was preparing for my test. And in the midst of this experience, I was also overwhelmed by a profound feeling of sadness. Now, that might sound kind of strange, but here's why I was profoundly sad. In the midst of that experience, my response was sadness because I felt so incredibly unworthy of anything God had to offer me. Much, especially his love. I felt unworthy of God's love. And I bawled my eyes out. And my roommates thought I had lost my mind. That is my before and after with Jesus. And things were much different after that. It assured me and confirmed two things. That one, God was real and existed. And number two, he absolutely loved me. Every one of us has these transitions before and after. So whether it's about school or work or retirement or marriage, or kids. But when it comes to faith, some people have a before and an after with Jesus, but not everybody. And if that's you, or if your after is to know about Jesus and not know Jesus, we have something for you that I think can help, and it's called Alpha. And if you're not familiar with Alpha, it's a place where you can explore life's big questions. It's an opportunity to meet new people, to share a meal, talk in small groups, exchange ideas in a very non-judgmental setting. Alpha is an experience, and we want everyone to have an encounter with Jesus. So if you've not taken Alpha before, or if you know somebody who can use the experience of Alpha, it begins on Thursday, February the 5th. We offer both a daytime Alpha and an evening Alpha. You can go on to our website, ourladyofguadalupe.ca/Alpha to get more information or to register. And to talk about his own recent experience with Alpha, I'd like to invite up Chris to offer a few words. Chris.
I wasn't in church when I first heard about Alpha. It sounded like a great idea, but I'll be honest, I didn't know what it was, so I did what comes naturally. I made assumptions. I assumed it was for better churchgoers to refine skills that I do not have. I could think that way because at the time, church and I felt separated. And still I had that voice inside, that feeling, and I know that it's not doubt. Often for me, it's I need to get out of my head, and in this particular case, act on some hope. So last fall, I went to Alpha. Instead of an overwhelming curriculum to memorize, I realized that Alpha was going to be a safe space to have those kinds of questions that I know I still have. And I think that probably all of us have. For me, it was an opportunity to explore questions like, how do I know my faith? And we can have those conversations because we gave each other the gift of our humility, our curiosity, our patience, so that when each one of us found our voice to speak, we genuinely listened to each other. And I kept thinking, then as I do now, where else could we possibly have had that conversation? You know, the question of change, for me, Alpha gave me a confidence to see a faith that is inside me all along, and it is there even when I doubt it. And that I not only belong here where I am, but that I am welcome here. I met people at Alpha that I hope I have as friends for the whole rest of my life. But I was not in church when I heard about Alpha for the first time. And as I said, I didn't know what it was. I wouldn't get to know any of these feelings that I have right now if somebody who cared about me hadn't have shared it with me. And the only thing I do know is that often I ask for help, and that's my way forward. And so my questions are, who should I be inviting to Alpha with me? What are the best ways to talk about Alpha with my friends? And if you'll forgive my boldness, who would you bring to Alpha with you? And that's a lot of the sound of my voice, so I'll end with these two crucial words. Thank you.